I'm now for Uncancelled. And this is where Britain's top commentators speak out on controversial issues without the fear of the cancel culture sweeping the rest of the media. And breaking tonight, there will be no royal reunion between King Charles and his closest long-term aide, Michael Fawcett, despite the Met Police dropping their inquiry into the Cash for Honours investigation against Fawcett and the Prince's Foundation yesterday. Sources have tonight told the Daily Telegraph that the King will never work with the former chief executive of his foundation again, with both men said to have moved on, aware that such a move would simply not be worth the aggravation. But Charles will be searching for all of the allies he can find, after some briefed the Sunday Times at the weekend that he runs the risk of becoming a caretaker king, perhaps too willing to sit back and wait for William to take the throne and become the real changemaker of the monarchy. Well, I'm delighted to welcome back to the show distinguished royal author Tom Bower, of course, the biographer of the King. And Tom, look, obviously we've got this breaking news on Michael Fawcett, but there seems to be a bigger question tonight as we approach the one-year anniversary of King Charles's reign as to whether he's actually making any form of difference and if he has the right people around him to do so.
Rumours of peace talks. But is reconciliation even possible? Tom Bower saying he doubts Harry and Charles can truly reconcile. So here's the story. Reports started circulating that Prince Harry might sit down with King Charles for so-called peace talks. The timing seemed hopeful, especially with the King's health in the spotlight and Harry making occasional returns to the UK. But the truth? These talks are less about heartfelt reunion and more about optics. That's where Tom Bower steps in with some tough words, saying straight out that reconciliation is highly unlikely.
Well, in my view, not, and we've discussed this many times, Dan. But, the Fawcett decision is actually critical to the survival of the monarchy. If Michael Fawcett had been prosecuted, and the evidence against him, let's remind ourselves, was pretty conclusive. He had offered a Saudi businessman a knighthood and British citizenship in return for a donation to Prince Charles's charities. That, if it was proven to be true, is illegal. And Fawcett in the dock at the Old Bailey would have undoubtedly caused the King enormous problems, and in my view, would have been the end of King Charles's reign. So they made the decision that the King's future was more important than the law in this case. And I think that's a very important decision that they've reached, a landmark. In terms of King Charles himself, I think we've always assumed that he's lost the mojo to some extent. The fact that he didn't deal firmly with the Sussexes, the fact that he allowed Prince William and Kate to take over so much of his duties has shown that he really hasn't got the energy, in my view, anymore to impose himself in the same way as perhaps his mother did and change Britain under his reign. He's a man of 75. I think his wife is not that keen on endlessly travelling. And I think he is going to be, in every way, a good caretaker king, but not the man he hoped that he would be.
Fascinating stuff. Both sides of the story, of course, here on GB News, and Michael Fawcett himself has always denied any wrongdoing, while a spokesperson for the Prince's Foundation told GB News tonight the Prince's Foundation has noted the decision of the Metropolitan Police following the conclusion of its own independent investigation and governance review last year. The charity is moving forward with a continued focus on delivering the education and training programs for which it has been established. Now, Tom, it hasn't been a great few days for Prince William either, who faced a barrage of criticism for what folk have called a sexist decision not to attend the Women's World Cup final in Sydney and his subsequent video apology. Watch this.
Lionesses, we want to send you a huge good luck for tomorrow. We're sorry we can't be there in person, but we're so proud of everything you've achieved and the millions you've inspired here and around the world. So go out there tomorrow and really enjoy yourselves.
Good luck, Lionesses.
But the Daily Telegraph columnist, Tom, and friend of the show, Celia Walden, argues while the decision may have been clumsy, it wasn't sexist. She accuses the Prince's critics of diluting serious accusations of sexism. So what did you make of his no-show in Sydney, Tom?
Well, I thought there were three reasons why he didn't have to go. I think that, he's a hardworking man. He's got a family. It's the summer holidays. It wouldn't only been his holidays that have been disrupted, but all his staff as well. I think that it wasn't vital for him to sit there, although in Sydney, although undoubtedly is an amazing achievement for the Lionesses and for women's sport in all, that they have got that far, they did get that far. But I think there's another more important issue as well here. Australia is run at the moment by a Republican Prime Minister. I think the arrival of Prince William just to see an English match, but not to have been there to see the Australian matches, would have been used by him to show that Prince William is not really a prince of the Australian people. He might have got involved in some unfortunate politics. So I think the Lionesses played as well as they could without his presence there, and it wasn't the end of the world that he didn't turn up.
Tom Bower has followed this story for years, and his verdict is blunt. Too much damage has been done. Think about it. Harry's memoir Spare, the Netflix series, those high-profile interviews. Every one of them chipped away at trust. For Charles, it's not just about forgiving his son. It's about leading the monarchy. And as Bower points out, how do you reconcile when you don't even trust your own words won't be leaked, twisted, or sold in the next documentary deal? This is bigger than father and son. For the royal family, trust is everything. Once Harry went public with the inner workings, conversations, private arguments, even intimate details about William, the damage was permanent. So now, whenever Charles or William thinks about sitting down with Harry, the thought is always the same. Will this end up in a book, a podcast, or a Netflix episode? That's not just mistrust, that's a total collapse of confidence. And let's be real, William is the shadow looming over all of this. If Charles even attempts peace talks, he risks alienating William, who is said to be furious and absolutely unwilling to forgive. William's position is simple. Harry crossed a line and you can't come back from it. So even if Charles wants reconciliation, William may see it as weakness, and that creates yet another family divide.
OK, interesting take. I see where you're coming from there, actually. Now, look, reports from OK magazine, Tom, which have gone all around the world, are suggesting that Prince Harry is preparing for peace talks with King Charles, with plans for the pair to reunite in Britain before Harry travels back to the States after next month's Invictus Games. One condition, according to sources, would be the Duke no longer airs private family laundry in public. Tom, do you really think that Charles particularly wants to have any form of summit with Harry at the moment, given how difficult and destructive his youngest son is still proving to be?
Well, I don't believe this story. I may be proved wrong, but I don't think that King Charles wants to get involved in the muckiness of discussing future terms of a relationship with Prince Harry. And I don't think that even Harry does, frankly. I think that they're both going about their lives now separately. And I think this is one of those stories a summer story, which might have been interesting, but really, let us look at the basics. The Sussexes are doing their absolute best to destroy the British monarchy. They may be quiet for the moment, but they're not going to keep
it's not over.
Forever.
No.
Timing, trust, and truth. Those are the three strikes here. The timing is always off. Harry and Meghan make moves when the spotlight benefits them. The trust is broken. No one believes private conversations will stay private. And the truth is, reconciliation requires both sides to want it. Right now, Harry seems to want headlines more than healing. Bower's doubts aren't just skepticism, they're a reality check. Peace talks aren't a path forward, they're a fantasy headline. At the end of the day, this isn't just about family drama. It's about a monarchy trying to survive scandal after scandal, and a son who keeps rewriting his own story for the cameras. So ask yourself, do you believe peace talks are possible? Or has too much been said, too much exposed for the family to ever reconcile? Let me know in the comments. Do you think King Charles should meet Harry or slam the door shut for good? Subscribe for more royal exposés.